Have you ever opened a mutual fund document and felt like you needed a translator? You see something like Groww Nifty Midcap 150 Index Fund, an open-ended scheme tracking the Nifty Midcap 150 Index, and you just think, what on earth does that actually mean? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to deconstruct this document piece by piece and figure out what this fund is all about.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll crack the code of the fund's name. Then we'll get into the real tug-of-war, its goals versus its risks. After that, we'll look at all the practical stuff, the different plans, the costs, and how you can actually start investing. And finally, we'll bring it all home to help you answer that one big question. Does this fund make sense for you?
All right, first things first. The secret to understanding this fund, it's hiding in plain sight, right there in its name. Let's just break down the two most important parts to see what it's really doing.
Okay, so at its core, this is an index fund. Now, think of it like this. Instead of a fund manager who's actively trying to pick winning stocks, an index fund is, well, it's lazy in a good way. It's passive. It gets a pre-made shopping list, which is the index, and its only job is to fill up its shopping cart with every single item on that list. It's a really simple, hands-off way to invest.
So, what's the shopping list for this particular fund? It's the Nifty Midcap 150 Index. Now, this isn't the list of the huge, famous blue-chip companies. Nope. This is the list of the next 150 companies right after them, the medium-sized players, or midcaps, in the Indian market. So that means this fund's shopping cart is filled with stocks from these 150 specific and often fast-growing businesses.
So now we know what the fund is buying. Let's get to the really critical part of the document, which is this constant tension between what it's trying to do for you and the risks it takes to get there.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one hand, the objective is crystal clear, to generate long-term capital growth. Simple enough. But then you look at the other side of the coin, and the document is just as blunt with its warning. Your money, your principal, will be at very high risk.
And hey, this isn't just some casual heads up. Every mutual fund in India has to show you this. It's called the riskometer. And as you can see, the needle for this fund is pushed all the way to the right, deep in the red zone. This very high rating isn't just for show. It's because these mid-cap companies, while they have tons of potential to grow, can also be way more volatile than the big established giants. So that potential for a higher reward, it comes with a lot more uncertainty.
Okay, so you get the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. We're talking about the nuts and bolts of investing, from the different plans they offer to the costs you really need to know about.
When you decide to invest, you've got a really important choice. You can go for a direct plan, which means you buy it straight from the source, no middleman, or you could use an advisor or broker, which would put you in a regular plan. The biggest difference between these two usually just boils down to the fees you end up paying.
But what happens if you forget to specify which plan you want? Well, the fund has rules for that, and that's what this table shows. For instance, look at scenario 1. If you don't mention a broker or a plan, boom, you're automatically in the direct plan. But if you do list a broker and forget to say which plan, you'll end up in the regular plan. It's one of those small details that can make a pretty big difference.
Now, beyond the plan type, the document points out a few other key costs. The good news? There's no exit load, which means you don't pay a fee to sell. That's great. But there is a tiny stamp duty of 0.005% on every transaction. And if you go through a distributor for an investment over 10,000 rupees, you might see a transaction charge. As for the annual recurring expenses, well, since the scheme is new, those are still to be announced.
Okay, you're all clear on the structure and the costs. So, how do you actually get your foot in the door? How much money does it take to get started with this fund?
According to the official document, if you want to make a single, one-off investment, what they call a lump sum, the minimum amount is just 500 rupees. That's a pretty accessible entry point for just about anyone.
But what if you'd rather invest smaller amounts more often? Well, for that, there's the Systematic Investment Plan, or SIP. The document says that for a daily or weekly SIP, you can get started with as little as 100 rupees.
So to put it really simply, the document lays out two main paths to get invested. You can either jump in with a single payment of 500 rupees or more, or you can set up a recurring plan to invest smaller chunks of money on a regular basis.
So we've broken down this document from top to bottom. We've looked at its DNA, its costs, everything. Now let's pull all those key facts together to help you think about that final and, honestly, most important question.
All right, let's do a quick recap of the absolute must-knows, straight from the source. 1. It's a passive fund that copies 150 mid-sized Indian companies. 2. Its whole point is long-term growth. 3. The official risk level is very high. 4. No fee when you sell, but there's a tiny stamp duty. And 5. You can start a systematic plan with just 100 rupees.
And amidst all the numbers and details, the document includes this one crucial sentence. It's a standard disclaimer, sure, but it's so important to remember. It's telling us that the fund's objective, well, it's a goal, not a guarantee. There's no promise here.
Ultimately, the whole point of this was to give you clarity, to help you understand the blueprint of this fund based directly on what the official document says. The real question, the one only you can answer, is how this blueprint, with all its potential for growth and its very explicit high risk, fits into your own financial plan and, maybe most importantly, your own comfort level.